Okay, hello. Can everybody hear me? Yeah. Okay. Okay, great. And we're ready to start talk. Is that okay for everybody? Yeah. Okay. Okay. So, well, again, welcome to this retreat called Original Love 1. we had a retreat by this title before, or Original Love, but then it sort of occurred to me that it might be interesting, I hope, to sort of parse out this term a little bit more and into the different sort of zones of practice, of growth, of healing, of wisdom that I've been referring to for some time now. So in other words, this first retreat has something of an emphasis on one of those zones that is pertinent, but of course, the subject, the real sort of the meat of our retreat is the same as the sort of heart of our lives. So it's not really possible to strictly categorize and compartmentalize. So although the intention for this retreat is to have something of an emphasis on this, what I've been calling the sort of first area or zone of growth that we can develop, and we're advised to develop really in sitting practice, but it can't really be to the exclusion of the others. That's just not how this works, not at all. So we'll see how we go through these days. I just want to check. Are you hearing me okay? Okay, thank you, thank you, thank you. So I'll dive in a little bit and start to sort of parse out some of this. I think I want to begin with this word love, because it's of course it's one of the most sort of loaded and variously understood words in the English language. All the way from sort of I love black bean stew. I love actually I love a bowl of oatmeal with with some brown sugar and a banana sliced into it. I really love that. Love it, And I the word is so widely used, What are we talking about, really? Well, of course, one of the most common, slightly more sort of serious uses of the word, of course, is relational, developing love, discovering love for others. Of course, right there, it has a multiplicity of variations as well, varieties. And that's great, and we celebrate that, and that's of course that's just absolutely vital for our human well-being and to expand our capacity for love, our circles of love, and all of that is really what makes, probably many might say, is what makes life worth living. I mean, some have said the purpose of human life is to experience love. It's not a bad philosophy. But there's another, there is another kind of territory, so to speak, I think it's fair to say, although it will manifest very much relationally as well, it's really sort of the heart of it, so to speak, is actually an inner journey, a deep journey into who we are. I mean, I use the word inner with a little hesitation, because the more we go into who we are, the more we uncover about who we are, the less, in a way, the less it is inner, the less it becomes possible to make that distinction of inner and outer, the further we go in that journey into who we are. But let's, for the moment, just call it, I don't know, inner, because it's not immediately about how we relate to others, although it has great bearing on that and affects that. But, you know, when we're sitting like this, we're, you know, it's in some ways, it's a sort of inner personal journey of exploration and of healing. But even then, all of us know that sitting in community, sort of already, it's not really a solitary thing at all that we're experiencing. As we sit more, we get more and more sensitive and attuned to the support of sitting with others. And, you know, we're all discovering these days how that is still operating even when we're sitting in our little beehive-like cells and connected by Zoom. It's still operating. And, you know, there is a sense that when we're sitting as community, you know, we more and more become sensitive to this kind of subterranean communion that we may not have been so aware of previously. It becomes clearer the more we let go of our ordinary relational sense of connection. We start finding something like a pre-existing level of connection. So that's why I use the word communion, because it's sometimes it strikes us as not so much as connection, but as some kind of pre-existing connectedness, pre-existing whole, pre-existing gathering that's already there. So on this inner journey, we can move through these kinds of different levels, zones of discovery of love that I see as different refractions of what I'm calling original love, which is really the heart, the source, the true manifestation of every moment. But it takes some time even to glimpse that, and it takes more time to start being able to sense it in any kind of consistent way. And my little scheme is kind of proposing that we can kind of conceptualize it as a little bit of a journey, where initially we're doing this first level of practice, which is commonly called mindfulness, present moment loving awareness, sort of learning to discover some kind of sense of compassion, love, allowing, welcome, warmth in the present moment. And the more we taste that, the less it seems to be about us, and the more it seems to be about somehow something that's just a little larger than us, that is perhaps a quality of awareness that's just slightly broader than our ordinary awareness, and that has this capacity of welcoming everything. Sometimes in traditional Buddhism, there's an image of a mirror as a metaphor for that. The fact that a mirror is itself without characteristics. A mirror just looks like what appears in it. It has this amazing ability or capacity that it really doesn't have characteristics of its own. It just lets whatever comes before it show in the mirror. And that there's a quality of this awareness that we all are, that is like that, that is sort of indiscriminately welcoming, you know, and that's a lovely thing to discover and to be able to reside in. And it's I would say it's the sort of fruit of cultivating present moment, allowing, letting the moment be as it is. And then, you know, further into the journey, we start to discover this sort of what I call second level, which is finding very deep sense of support in the moment. You know, sometimes in Zen it's called infinite support. Infinite support. And we you know, it's words, I know when I'm saying that. The important thing is what it's like to taste that. That every step of the way, every step of our lives, there's a infinite support that we can start to discover. And then, you know, third level is beginning to get into the realm of awakening, where, and that as far as I can say, is awakening, like directly connecting, discovering this original love being on one level boundless oneness, that everything's part of everything. To discover that is, and of course we're no exception, and to discover that is to discover an intrinsic, pervasive love among all things, because they're all one. It's a most beautiful, beautiful thing to find. And then perhaps we could say there's kind of a level beyond that. I mean, again, I'm feeling a little hesitant about this term level, because it's all rather marvelously interwoven, you know, but let's say another level where we find that there isn't even one. There isn't even one. There's just the thing you can't name. There's no thing. It's no thing at all. It's no thing at all. It's not even one. And somehow, at least in some traditions like Zen, some schools of Zen, that's viewed as sort of an infinitely, it's discovered and tasted and experienced as a sort of infinitely fecund, fertile, generative, creative, generous vacancy. It's an absence that is infinitely giving all the time. And that's what this moment here is actually, in a sense, made of. So the others are sort of features, attributes, characteristics, but when you get right down to it, this moment is made of absence. Presence is absence, absence is presence, or in the words of more familiar terminology of the Heart Sutra, form is emptiness, emptiness is form. If you really study form, you find emptiness. And if you try to hang around in emptiness, you discover form. You discover emptiness is form. I mean, that's, all these things are just ways of trying to convey what is actually experiential, not cognitive and conceptual. Now, so if we just hold that little map a little bit and then put it away, but we could sort of see that somehow our initial project is actually, it's about coming to rest, being able to rest in the present moment, and finding that it's a place, an experience that is sort of just floods us with love, actually, just to be in the present moment. It's so beautiful to find the resting in the here and now. One of the things I love about these sort of zones of practice is that each one is enough. You could decide, I don't care about that awakening business. I kind of want more peace in the present moment. That's my life's path. Great, great, it's enough. Or you could decide, I don't care about that awakening business, but I do want to feel that sense of kind of wider, deeper support. I love the sound of that. That resonates with me. I really want to get closer to that. Terrific. That's a whole life path. You know, so you, in a way, I feel I've been wanting to talk about all of these because I think there's a risk in being too, I mean, I suppose I'm talking about myself. I've felt that I've run a risk in assuming that, you know, awakening is enough, you know, just, you know, I mean, how fortunate to get any taste of it, but that's enough. And really, I'm feeling more these days that it's smart to be able to address our more ordinary needs and troubles as well. And practice is a marvelous place for doing that. So it's wise to have some conversancy, I think, with not just the awakening side of practice, you know. And so I'm emphasizing as well, you know, regular mindfulness practice. Now, this is not inconsistent with the traditional Zen teachings, and probably I myself rather disregarded what Zen says. It says there's 5 kinds of practice. And it's really saying, you know, there are 5 zones of development. And they are rather like the ones I've just been talking about, with one little couple of minor variations, you know. And so it's one might come at that with the mindset of, oh well, I just want the, you know, the last one. That's obviously the best one, you know, something like that. And that's absolutely wrong. That we're more like a kind of 3-dimensional mosaic, a 3-dimensional collage, where we're more like a sphere that, you know, the clearer the whole thing gets, the better, not just one channel. So really all I want to now say is a little bit about what may get in the way of coming to rest in the present moment. And fortunately, you know, there's one particular traditional map of that, which is very nice and helpful, and it's pragmatic. We can bring it into our sitting. And I'm sure many of you will know this, but I think it's worth going over. The 5 hindrances. The 5 hindrances are, you know, a common feature of early or Theravada Buddhist practice, and being aware of what they are and knowing how to recognize them and how to sit with them, I think is probably helpful all along the way. So here's a little quote from the Aversion Sutra about them. Suppose there were a river flowing down from the mountains, going far, its current swift, carrying everything with it. And a person would open channels leading away from it on both sides, so that the current in the middle of the river would be dispersed, diffused, and dissipated. It wouldn't go far, its current wouldn't be swift, and it wouldn't carry everything with it. Okay, so the idea, that's translated by Thanissaro Bhikkhu, by the way. The idea is that those side sluices get opened, channels flow off, and the river loses the force of its main current. That's like these 5 hindrances diverting our energy from the power that our practice can have. Okay, now there are marvelous, 2 sets of marvelous analogies for what these hindrances are like. By the way, you know, I'm gonna go over them right now. The first set of analogies is like this. Hindrance number 1 is desire. Here, the sway and pull of desire. So I'm just hesitating because I want to just explain that right now I'm quoting from Thanissaro Bhikkhu, not from the sutra, but a commentary he's made on it, where this passage arises. This is from the Samanapala Sutra. But on that sutra, Thanissaro Bhikkhu comments like this. Here, the pull and sway of desire, which is the first hindrance, is compared to an ever-deepening debt, a loan that just leads to incurring more loan to be repaid with interest. So that's a sense of desire kind of draining our resources, you know, and we're investing in something more and more, and we're just going to have to repay more and more interest on it. Now, just I think in a way, the best way to work with these is to just feel what it's like in the body, because all of these are actually forms of suffering, all these hindrances. And we might as well start on this now, that the way to work with them is to feel them in the body. Well, that's one powerful way to work with them, is to feel them in the body. So whether desire is for, you know, a nice fish taco, or whether desire is for a cup of coffee, or whether desire is for sex, or whether desire is for sleep, or whether desire is for a big project to come through, or whether desire is for sleep, sex, food, money, and fame are the 5 major desires. Sleep, sex, food, fame, and fortune. Wealth and good renown. Acknowledgement, recognition. Those are said to be the 5 main desires that we go to. So while we're sitting, you know, you just see what state you're in. I mean, I've known times when I had something I'd been working on, and it was coming to fruition, you know, and I'd be sitting with the sort of sense of excitement about a desire getting fulfilled, and it was more of a not a narrow focused desire, but kind of something rather large in life, you know, whatever it might be. And that is also a hindrance. It's and you know, if you find it, as some kind of active energy in your chest or solar plexus is likely where it will be, you just sit with it. Because the trick with all these hindrances is they just need to be recognized and felt in the body. And then they're not a hindrance, they're a gateway to deeper practice. So the second one is aversion. And here the analogy, it's a sickness, a fever, something that thwarts the possibility of enjoying wholesomeness or good health. So, sweating with a fever, that's quite a strong analogy. Aversion. So we've got desire and aversion. Aversion is almost desire in reverse, wanting things not to be. You may hear, those of you who are more familiar with Zen, echoes of the first line of the first great Zen poem, the Shinjinmei. The great way is not difficult. It just dislikes picking and choosing. It's just obscured by picking and choosing. When like and dislike disappear, sorry, it's the second line. When like and dislike disappear, the way stands clear and undisguised. So all that has to happen is for like and dislike to disappear. You see, this thread runs right through the Buddhist tradition. When like and dislike disappear, the way stands clear and undisguised. I would rephrase that something like this, just to get more of a sense of what it's saying. Is all that has to happen is for like and dislike to be completely gone, and then the way we experience this very moment is very different. It's a marvel. We can't tell if it's solid or not. It's solid, and it's totally transparent. It's gone entirely, and yet here it is. Are you guys hearing me? Oh, I'm sorry. I think I lost you there. Are you okay? Am I here?
You're fine, Henry.
Okay, I've got something. So you're hearing me now, yeah? Hearing and seeing me?
Yes.
Okay, it's just that something weird's happening on my computer, so I'm just going to ignore it. So like and dislike, thanks, Peg. Like and dislike disappear, and then the way is clear. Then we see what this whole tradition and practice and all the texts, they've all been trying to show us, trying to share with us. We see it suddenly, simply because like and dislike are gone. We see this wondrous reality of this very moment. That's what it's trying to tell us. So this is a thread right through Buddhism: desire, aversion, like, dislike. The third one, dullness of mind, heart, body, is like being held in a dark prison cell where the light hardly reaches us and we have no freedom of movement. Okay, well, that would be sometimes called sleepiness, lethargy, sloth, torpor, heaviness of body, dullness of mind. Quite strong language, being in a prison cell. Okay, fine. So, but know it in the body. And actually, let's not catastrophize. I feel there may be a danger of slightly overplaying these things. But anyway, the fourth one, under the thrall of worry and restlessness, we are like slaves liable to being ordered about by a tyrannical master or mistress, unable to exercise any free choice in what we do, say, or think. That's the fourth one. I think it's true that restlessness and worry can be very, very sort of compulsive and addictive, and it's very difficult to disengage from them until you feel them in the body. Find them in the body. give them the space, give them the spacious awareness, give them the welcome that awareness offers. Let awareness give them that welcome, give them space. Don't try to get rid of them, give them space, and their power is greatly diminished. Fifth one is doubt. To be in the grip of doubt is to be a traveler lost in a desert without a map. There is apparently no known route, and we're in the middle of nowhere without water, sustenance, or guidance. Again, that's quite striking me just right now as rather strong, but okay, fine. To be in the grip of doubt is to be in the desert with no known route and no map, and getting hungrier and thirstier by the minute. That's doubt. It's a parched place because you don't know which way to go, and you don't have a map because you've torn up your map. See, in doubt, there's doubt about practice, essentially, is what it's talking about. That it's the opposite of faith and trust, that kind of doubt, where we're really, it's very hard. It comes up at times for all of us, I'm sure. Is this a path I can trust? And more and more we seem to learn to ride through that. We don't get so bothered by it, because while the other 4 hindrances make it harder to practice, there's something that it's wiser to be aware of them and attend to them rather than just kind of ignore them. Then we'll learn and we'll grow. But with this one, it really makes us more liable not to practice at all. And that's too bad. And the solution, they say, for this one is to practice regardless. Just practice regardless. But you can try what it's like to go back to your original intention. Why did you want to practice in the first place? You could try running that through the mind. You can also try remembering the great teacher. There's one great teacher always with us, as I'm sure you're all aware. One absolutely immutable, unshakable, great teacher that we've always got. And he or she is coming closer and closer every day, every hour, every minute. We're all going to meet the great teacher. But the great teacher isn't only valuable when you meet the great teacher, valuable all the way along the path to meeting the great teacher. You know what I'm talking about, right? The great teacher that we all meet. I don't think I need to spell it out, but just remember that our days are finite, we're mortal. This very body, So just remember that and see whether that, helps dispel doubt, if doubt is coming up. Okay, so I'm not going to go to the second set of analogies. I'll maybe get to them tomorrow. And thank you very much, everybody. And do I want to just, let me just see if there's any encouragement that I want to offer, just closing. The main thing I want to convey is regard this as the primary theme of this retreat. Regard it as rest. Rest. I don't just mean like rest and recharge. I mean finding this extraordinary quality of every moment. Join it, which can be called infinitely dynamic, infinitely restful. And what I'd really like is that you taste what it's like to dissolve into that. You don't just sort of see it as something apart from you, You really can't, I think. You have to find, as your own body gets more and more settled into its own rest, you know, the human body at peace with itself is expressing this, that line. The human body at peace with itself. Finding this, it's a beautiful dissolving kind of rest in this very moment. And as you find that, the heart gets absorbed into it as well. The mind, awareness is already part of it. And we just rest. But it's very dynamic. Even you could say active. And if you've got a practice that's a koan or breath, watching breath, that's fine. You can be in this deep, deep rest that everything is in. So you're joining this dynamic rest of all the contents of this moment. And you can just pervade that with a sense of breath. You can pervade it with your koan. They're not incompatible. And if you're not doing either breath or koan, great, fine. Just rest in dynamic awareness that you sort of share with the contents of this moment. It's not you being aware of them. You're finding your way into this shared rest that's throughout this moment. Okay, so that's something to be sort of working towards, or not working towards, settling into. Okay, thank you very much, everybody. So I guess a short break, and then we'll resume sitting. Peg, thank you very much.